There's a lot of reaction following former President Donald Trump's guilty verdict yesterday on 34 felony counts, and of course a lot of questions too, lots of unknowns at this point. We are joined live this morning with Patrick Schoettmer, an associate teaching professor of American politics at Seattle University. Patrick, thank you so much for being here. First off, we all know what happened. We know about the conviction now. Can you tell us what the next steps will be? We know the big one is sentencing is set for July 11th.
Yeah, so we know that there will be a couple of appeals that are going to be filed, but those will have to wait till after the sentence is done. After that, from the analysis I've seen, it could be anywhere to up to January to February of next year, before you see any movement on those appeals.
You know, I think the big question is will former President Trump face prison time? Can you explain the different scenarios for the different prison terms that are up, possibly during the sentencing date later on in July? And what is the likelihood the sentence will just be probation?
Well, that's a little out of my area of expertise, but the maximum sentence for this is 1.5 to 4 years. Traditionally, these are, if they were to get any prison sentence at all, they would be sentenced concurrently, which means all of them would be at the same time. They wouldn't be consecutively, although in theory they could be. But for first-time offenders, generally speaking, you wouldn't expect prison time. That said, if there are a number of aggregating factors, including the seriousness of the crime itself, election interference, as the prosecution is arguing, as well as a lack of remorse or other things like that, that could make prison time a little more likely.
Patrick, you know, when this news was breaking yesterday, this is the first time that a former U.S. president has been basically convicted of a crime. Can you give us a sense of how groundbreaking and how historic this is? Your background is in presidential history. This has never happened before.
My background is actually in election politics, but I do also teach on American presidential history. But yeah, while we have not seen this at the presidential level, we've had one minor presidential candidate running with a conviction. That was Eugene Debs in 1920. And we likely would have seen a conviction of a former president had Ford not pardoned Nixon in the 1970s. This is the first time we've seen a criminal trial for a president go ahead. And so in that sense, it is groundbreaking. But in another sense, it's a very ordinary thing. If we step one level down to the state level, there have been numerous governors who've been sentenced to prison for misdeeds after they've served in office. We've seen people both thrown out of office for misdeeds, but then also getting back in, like former state Supreme Court Justice Roy Moore in Alabama. And so what we see happening is the sort of rule of law application where no one is above the law at the state level finally coming into play at the federal level.
Patrick, is there a sense also that come November, you know, there's a lot of chatter about this. We're all covering this very deeply, but is there a sense that come November, none of this will even matter at the end of the day when we consider Trump supporters and his base who are supporting him more than ever now?
Well, the degree of political polarization we see in the electorate is considerable, and for many, many voters, this is not going to change any minds. Where this will matter are in two places. First off, we need to see if it's going to matter on those soft Republican voters, the voters who were casting votes for, say, Nikki Haley in the primary. They were already expressing reluctance or concern about President Trump in the primary election. Will this be enough to push them off pulling that lever or checking that box for the president come November? It doesn't mean they will vote for Biden, but it could mean they vote third party, or it could mean they skip voting in that election entirely. And so the first concern for the Republicans is going to be not scaring off those voters. The second concern is going to be independent voters. From the polling we've seen, independent voters were the group that least likely thought that there would be a conviction. Sure. And this may come as a surprise that can shake up that independent, low information, low attention voter. Voters who don't live and breathe
Okay.
politics like a lot of news junkies like me.
Okay. All right. Patrick Schoettmer, thank you so much for your insights. Associate Professor at Seattle University. We so appreciate you for breaking it down for us. Thank you.